Most students think the fastest way to learn a new skill is to collect more information, more videos, more tutorials, more books, more techniques, more advice from experts. And at first, this feels logical. But in real life, something strange happens. A student learns many methods, tries new routines, changes their study system, and promises that this time everything will be different. For a few days, they feel motivated, but after 1 week, their brain feels heavy. Studying becomes confusing. They keep switching between techniques, and instead of becoming faster, they become slower. Not because they are lazy, not because they are stupid, not because they lack discipline. The real problem is that their knowledge is growing faster than their ability to use it. I call this the practice gap, the distance between what you know and what you have actually trained yourself to do. In this video, you will learn why too much information can slow your progress, why jumping from one method to another keeps you stuck, and how to close the practice gap so your learning finally turns into real skill. And make sure you watch until the end, because I will share one simple way to stop collecting advice and start improving from what you already know. Let's make this simple. Imagine you are learning how to drive for the first time. On the first day, your instructor gives you many instructions at once. Every instruction is useful, but if you think about all of them at the same time, you will probably freeze. The problem is not the instructions. The problem is that your brain has not had enough time to turn any of them into a natural habit. You are trying to drive while also remembering every rule, correction, and detail. That is too much mental load for a beginner. This is exactly what happens when students try to use too many study methods at once. Every new technique adds a new layer of thinking. At the beginning, nothing feels automatic. You have to consciously remember what to do, when to do it, and how to do it correctly. So, when you add too many systems too quickly, your brain starts to feel like a laptop with too many tabs open. It becomes slow, noisy, and difficult to control. This is why many students feel like they are working hard, but still not improving. They are watching videos, taking notes, saving strategies, trying routines, and learning new productivity rules. They are not lazy, they are overloaded. Sometimes knowledge is arriving faster than practice. The student knows many ideas, but they have not trained themselves to use even one of them properly. Their brain has information, but not stability. Real learning is not just about receiving information. Real learning is a cycle. You try something, you notice what happens, you see what went wrong, you adjust one thing. Then you try again. That cycle is where real progress happens, but many students break it too early. They start one method, feel uncomfortable, and immediately search for another one. They try active recall, then mind maps, then spaced repetition, deep work, flashcards, and time blocking. They keep moving, but they are not going deeper. They are not building a skill. They are collecting methods, and collecting information can feel productive. It gives you the feeling that you are doing something important. Motivation is not the same as improvement. If that advice does not change what you do in your next study session, then it stays as information. It does not become skill. For example, imagine you are a college student trying to study better. You learn active recall, spaced repetition, interleaving, the Feynman technique, deep work, habit stacking, dopamine detox, and time blocking. None of these ideas are bad. Many of them can help. But the problem is timing. If you try to apply everything at once, your study session stops being about learning the subject. It becomes about managing the system. Instead of focusing on biology, history, writing, math, coding, or whatever you are studying, your mind becomes busy with the method itself. This is why too much advice can sometimes make learning worse. A good method should make your learning clearer over time. But when too many methods are added too early, they create more confusion than clarity. The goal is not to know every learning technique. The goal is to make one useful technique simple enough that you can actually use it consistently. Because a skill is not truly yours just because you understand it. A skill becomes yours when you can use it without thinking about every single step. Understanding is only the beginning. Repetition is what makes that understanding usable. This is the correct way to learn. Not 10 techniques at once. One technique, enough practice, one adjustment, more practice, then another technique. It may look slow from the outside, But in reality, this is faster because your brain is actually building something stable. Most people do the opposite. They move fast on the surface, but slow in real progress. They finish courses quickly. They save videos. They highlight notes. They collect ideas. They feel like they are improving because they are exposed to more information. But when it is time to perform, they cannot use most of what they learned. The reason is simple. Information that is not practiced becomes decoration. It may look good in your notebook. It may sound smart when you talk about it. But if it does not change your behavior, it does not change your ability. So, what should you do instead? Start by choosing one specific thing to improve. Do not say, "I want to study better." That is too broad. Choose one clear behavior. For example, after every page, I will close the book and test myself. Or, after every lecture, I will explain the main idea in my own words. Or, after every practice test, I will review my mistakes before moving on. One clear behavior is powerful because your brain knows exactly what to do. You are not trying to rebuild your entire life in one day. You are giving your brain one job, and when that one job is repeated enough times, it becomes easier. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. That does not mean it is wrong. Discomfort is often a sign that your brain is doing real work. When you test yourself instead of rereading, your brain has to search for the answer. That search feels harder, but that effort helps memory become stronger. When you explain something in your own words, you may notice gaps in your understanding. Those gaps are not a problem. They are information. They show you exactly where learning needs to happen. When you review your mistakes, you may feel slow. But mistakes are feedback. They show you what needs to be adjusted. The key is to stay with one improvement long enough to complete the learning cycle. Try it. Observe it. Adjust it. Repeat it. Only after it becomes smoother should you add another layer. This is how you close the practice gap. Here is a practical rule. For every useful idea you learn, give yourself enough practice before learning another one. If you watch a 20-minute video about a study method, do not immediately watch 5 more videos. Use that one method in real study sessions for several days. Notice where it helps. Notice where it feels difficult. Then adjust it based on your real life. Because your life is not the same as someone else's life. Your classes are different. Your schedule is different. Your weaknesses are different. Your attention span is different. Your environment is different. So a method becomes powerful only when you test it inside your own life. This is why practice is not optional. Practice is where theory becomes personal. Without practice, advice remains generic. With practice, advice becomes experience. And experience is what actually changes you. This also explains why some students improve slowly at first, then suddenly become much better. They are not magically talented. They are building foundations. At the beginning, they may look slow because they are not jumping from method to method. They are repeating the basics. They are turning one useful action into a habit. But after a while, that habit gives them mental freedom. The method becomes natural. And because the first layer is stable, they can add a second layer without feeling overwhelmed. So if you feel stuck right now, do not immediately search for another method. Ask yourself a better question. Am I practicing one useful method long enough for it to become natural? Because sometimes the answer is not to add more. Sometimes the answer is to remove the extra noise and go deeper with one thing. You do not need a perfect system. You need a system your brain can actually use. Here is a simple 7-day experiment. Choose one topic, read a small section, close the book, write or say what you remember, check what you missed, fix the gap, repeat. That is it. It may look simple, but if you do it honestly, it can teach you more than hours of passive rereading. Because now your brain is active. It is not just receiving information. It is retrieving, comparing, correcting, and rebuilding. That is real learning. Once this becomes easier, you can add another layer. You can add spaced review, then practice questions, then deeper explanations. But do not add everything on the first day. Your brain needs space to adapt. Learning is not a race to consume the most theory. Learning is the process of turning the right theory into automatic behavior through repeated experience. So, the next time you feel behind because someone else is watching more videos, reading more books, or following more strategies, remember this. The fastest learner is not always the person who takes in the most information. The fastest learner is the person who can take one useful idea, practice it deeply, learn from feedback, and turn it into a habit. That person may look slow in the beginning, but over time they become dangerous, because they are not just collecting knowledge. They are converting knowledge into skill, and that is the real difference between people who only study and people who actually learn. So do not overload your brain with 10 new techniques today. Choose one. Practice it. Observe the result. Adjust it. Repeat it until it becomes easier. Then, and only then, add the next layer. That is how you learn faster, by moving slower. And if you apply this seriously, your study sessions will stop feeling like a battle against confusion. They will become a clear process of improvement. Not perfect, not easy, but clear. And clarity is what your brain needs to grow. Before you leave, comment below and let me know which country you are watching from. I want to know which parts of the world my students are joining from. If this video helped you see learning in a different way, give it a like and share it with a friend who keeps collecting study tips but still struggles to turn them into real progress. Remember, knowledge never decreases when it is shared, but it only becomes powerful when it is practiced. See you in the next video. Until then, don't just collect more advice. Choose one useful idea, practice it deeply, and turn it into a real skill. Thank you.